Hey, what's up, Hog Pods? Thanks for joining us. We've got a really cool interview this evening. I'm with the John Lynch family. That's John, Marcia, and Katie. And they have a family hognose business. John and I have been friends for almost 20 years. So I think it was 2006. I had a contact that said, hey, there's a guy up there in Dalhart, which was like 3.5 hours from where I live here in Lubbock, and he breeds hognose. And I was like, no way, there's not very many hognose breeders out here. And he said, yeah, he's got a ton. And so anyway, that's how we got to be good friends. I went up there and he just had an awesome collection. And of course, that was before any of the internet stuff was around. So he had just kind of developed that just by passion, and it was really cool. So, John, without further ado, do you want to jump in and tell them how you got your logo and your business name?
The logo, I just decided to go with the spider since I was the originator of the spider gene.
Very cool. And do you want to tell us a little bit about the spider gene, kind of how you developed it and what you had going on with it?
At the time, I had, like a lot of people, I had all kinds of stuff. Bolas, pythons, everything. I mean, basically, at one time or another, I've worked with all of it, venomous, everything. And I had sold some of my boas and pythons to a lady that had a pet store in Amarillo, Texas. And I was in Dalhart, which I think is 88 miles or so. Basically, I got to be friends with her, and she had someone bring in a wild-caught, gravid female western hognose. And she laid her eggs, and the lady hatched the eggs out, and then she immediately called me and she said, hey, I want you to come look at these snakes. They are really weird looking, and I know you know about hognose, so I want you to come check them out. So a few days later, I went over there, and my mouth just hit the ground when I saw them. I was like, oh, wow. And at that time, there wasn't any lemon ghost womas or anything like that. There were, you remember back then there were just a handful of morphs, and Richard Evans pretty much was the only one that had any morphs. So I ended up acquiring original spider male, and he was a baby. He was a hatchling, and he was the most extreme. And then I don't remember. I know you've got a better memory than I do, but I think there were two or three other males in the clutch, and I remember there was one female, and the female was just incredible green, just beautiful green. And so I acquired those animals and started growing those up, and then I eventually acquired the mother also to that clutch.
Yeah, they're an amazing line. I remember when I first saw them, they were just kind of crazy. John sent a male that he had that was just extremely low key. He had some good high contrast colors. It was almost a black and yellow and green animal to me to breed, and I bred it to another female and ended up hatching out some spiders, so we could tell that it was a line bred. At the time, we thought it was dominant because it was, you produce first generation outcross, and you had animals that were as nice or nicer than the dad. So I still feel there's a dominant element to that bloodline. So yeah, it was something really cool. So that was a neat deal working with John on that. So kind of branching out into question number 2. And you talked a little bit about that. Tell us, I think, Katie, you're going to kind of take off on this one too. Obviously, the focus is hognose snakes, but Katie, what other species do you guys have as a family and raise?
I have one bunny, one dog, one cat, 4 rats, 8 ball pythons, 1 king snake, 2 turtles, 6 spiders. Well, they aren't spiders, they're basically tarantulas. And that's it.
Cool. What species of tarantulas do you have for all the tarantula keepers that are going to be listening in?
I have a green bottle blue, a curly hair, a Texas brown, and I have 2 Goliath bird eaters. 3, sorry.
Very cool. Yeah, that's really exciting. I think a lot of the people that are going to listen in are spider and tarantula keepers, true spiders, and so they'll find some interesting relations there with that. So what's y'all's favorite hognose morph and why?
Well, mine would obviously be the spider hognose. I think it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. The yellow glow also, but the yellow glow is a variant of the spider. I love all of them, but if I had to pick one, it would be the spider.
My favorite a lavender, and I used to have a lavender, but he died.
I remember that one. That was sad.
Okay, I'm going to chime in on this one. Mine is the mocha. I love how dark and white the saddles are. You know how they're just like they're not the milk chocolate. They're like a dark chocolate. So that would probably be my favorite.
Very cool. And all of those are just remarkable. If you guys don't know, if anybody doesn't know on here, John was also the founder of the original mocha. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but that first original animal was found, in a warehouse by somebody in that town you lived in?
Yeah, at the time I owned a barber shop there in Delhart, and I would have people bring snakes in to me, when they realized that I like snakes. And I had a gentleman that was a customer of mine, and he had a little, wasn't a deli cup, it was a little, I think it was like a little styrofoam cup. He said, "Here, John, look, I found this today." And I looked in there, and I was afraid it was going to be a rattlesnake. You never know how some of those guys are. But I looked in there, and he had the original mocha female, and she was a little, probably, 10-gram hatchling. That was another jaw dropper. When I saw it, I was like, "Oh, wow, this is something special." At that time, I got rid of everything else that I had, and I completely focused on the hognose, on the spider project, and the mocha project.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, it was crazy because we're 4 hours apart, and we only had the telephone to communicate. So John would call me, and he'd say, "Man, I got a really cool snake you got to see." And I kid you not, people in that area at that time, and of course this was way before any laws were enacted, that protected all that kind of stuff. But people would bring him random snakes that they would find in that area. And there were at least 2 albino prairie rattlesnakes that came from the wild that he got. And then one, what was it, a hypo, the green one that they brought you?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like literally green with where it would normally have black was like lilac purple. And it had a purple tongue, and then its irises were purple. It was just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Crotalus viridis. And the albinos were like as orange albino hognose. And you remember the one you sent to me that had some kind of an injury to its face, and we were trying to get it to feed because it couldn't feed on its own. But it was just like every time I turned around, somebody was bringing some of the coolest snakes you'd ever see up there to John. Remember the Emery's rat somebody found that had stripes?
Yeah.
I think it was a wild-caught gravid that somebody hatched out, and the babies were born, and they had like 50% stripe down their back. And I know that's nothing unusual with corn snakes, but for Emery eye or Great Plains rat snakes, that was just something that was really unusual. So not sure what Delhart had in their water, but man, there were some cool snakes that came from that area.
Yeah, I was very, very blessed to acquire all the cool stuff that we did while I lived out there in Texas.
So jumping into question number 4, a little more thought with these last 2 questions. Any frustrations with the hobby, the hognose community, maybe misinformation, maybe husbandry of hogs, or frustrations with hognose themselves? And are there any steps that you're taking as a breeder or a keeper to kind of correct what you see as a problem?
I personally don't really have any. I'll kind of turn that one over to Marcia because she deals a lot more, with people directly at the shows and all that. So that'd be a better one for her. Let's turn that one to her.
Well, the only thing that I can think of is I don't really see anything wrong with the breeders or anything of that nature. Mine would be that, the people that are buying the snakes sometimes just don't know about hognose. They've had a ball python, or they've had this, or they've had that. And we as hognose breeders know that they're pretty much a breed to their own. But, they want to get them, and they want to put them in these pretty tanks, and they just want to see them, and they want to put all this stuff in there with them, and then all of a sudden they just stop eating. So, I try to educate the people when they're buying them, that sure, those things are great, but sometimes the hognose will stop eating. So we give them a little, what we call the little deli, when we sell them, that's the appropriate size for the snake. And I just tell them if they don't eat, or if they, just start acting reclusive or whatever, just put them back in that and then see if they will eat, because they don't like large enclosures usually. I mean, there's some that, just really love them, but for the most part, they tend to like smaller spaces. So that would be, the people just need to be educated as far as a hognose per se.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially with babies. Little bitty baby, no bigger than a number 2 pencil, and it gets thrown in a 10-gallon. I've seen them put them in 55-gallon tanks. Unfortunately, the people that I knew that did that had 2 little babies, and they never found them, and 2 snakes died, little hognose, because it was just too big, too cold. They were just, it was really a lot of misinformation. So I think that's good information, that the hognose just needs to feel secure. And I know people that do have bigger tanks like that, and like you said, just put them in the little deli to feed, and then they go right back to their bigger tank. It's great for a bigger snake, but the smaller ones, I definitely, like you, recommend something smaller. Number 5, any wisdom that you would give to the beginner keeper or breeder? I mean, John, obviously you've got 20 plus years of experience with hognose. Going back to the olden days, whenever we didn't know anything, what would you go back and tell yourself, if you could tell yourself anything that you think would help you to be a better keeper or breeder?
Well, I'll kind of go back to what we were talking about in the beginning. Just like you, I don't know. I think I've kept snakes since I was 9 or 10 years old.
Yep.
And at the time, I just wanted to just get everything that I could, have some of everything. And so to answer that question, I would do what it took me 10 or 15 years to do, and I would pick 1 or 2 species and just focus completely on those and learn everything that I could about those and just be an expert with those, which is what I did with the hognose 20 plus years ago. That's what I tell myself. Just focus on 1 or 2 species.
Marcia, how about you on that same question?
I'm gonna answer as the keeper breeder wife. So what would I tell myself? I would probably say, don't do it. Don't do it. Run. No, I'm just kidding. Get a big house. If you're going to do it, you're going to need a big house, because you keep losing rooms and things, because, they start out with, like he just said, 1 snake, and then it's 2 snakes, and then those breed, and there's babies, and then there's 10 snakes, and it just keeps growing. So that's what I would tell myself. Get a bigger house. Don't do a bigger house.
That's great.
Don't marry a snake breeder.
No, it's funny. I talked to a lady actually, and it was kind of the alternative on there. She was the one getting all the snakes, and her husband was saying similar to what you had said. It's just, when we get in, we jump in with both feet, as snake keepers and breeders, especially as we scale, to kind of build the business. And I know, Marcia, you got your own snakes to work with, and you've just been hammering it down with that. And so that's been cool to watch, cool to see you grow as a keeper and a breeder. It's been really fun.
Yes, he broke me in many years ago on all that. Now, like I said, I got, I feed all the rabbits and the snakes and the rats and the turtles and all of that. So I wanted my own project.
And all jokes aside, I really do want to say that I'm very, very blessed to have a wife that not only will put up with the snakes, but actually will actually help me feed, 100 babies and help me take care of them. So I'm very blessed.
And your kiddo too,
Yeah.
Katie jumping in there and not scared of anything. It's fun looking at it from the outside. I mean, we've been friends for forever, and our kids know each other and whatever. But seeing Katie, obviously you guys see snakes all the time right there, at your house, wild king snakes and rat snakes and whatever else. And Katie's not scared of anything. So it's kind of cool to...
two Holden snakes. So yeah, she's been around it.
Yeah, it's good that y'all have made it a family deal. You know, even my two kids, they're not scared at all of the hognose. Now Braden was a little intimidated. I had a little baby ball python that moved its head real fast at him, and boy, I mean, he was like, "I'm out of here." But you know, they're just not interested in snakes. I mean, they're not scared of them. They're not bothered by them, but they definitely would rather just do their own thing and not be a part of that. Part of that's just because I was so deep into it, you know, that their eyes glaze over when I talk about it or whatever. But so I can't really say it's a family ordeal with me. You know, I'm just a single guy, but I love it. You know, I wouldn't trade it for nothing. But I really admire that you guys as a family do it and enjoy it. You know, go to the reptile shows, and yeah, it's just a cool deal. Cool to see.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, Kate has helped me set up a couple times, and if John can't be there or whatever, it's me and Kate setting up, and she always wants to take the snakes out of the delis and put them in the display case. So that's marked her spot. So yeah, she helps me a lot.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Well, I just want to thank you guys for jumping on and sharing your experiences. And just for all the listeners, if you look in the description below, we're going to have spiderhognose.com and their information below, just so you can find them on, I guess, are y'all on social media at all with that name, Spider Hognose, or is it just Morph Market?
No, it's just Morph Market, and I'm working on the website, but I promise that I'll be in more places coming soon. Yeah,
they're starting to do some shows locally there. They live in North Georgia, and so they're going to be doing some shows in Tennessee and some other places like that. So you guys make sure to look for them and stop by. They're great people to visit with. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up there. But thanks again for being on the show tonight.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
As far as availability goes right now at Hognose One, we still have lots of animals that are getting going, but I've decided to release some of the nicest, top quality reds and Project Reds, Project Redhead. But please understand that the Project Redheads, I'm out of females. I only have males left on those. You can always pair a Project Redhead male with a Project Red Spectrum female and come out with some awesome examples. As stated, I think they may be a recessive trait or just the dominant trait that can stack when you cross two in a given lineage. The genes match up and they produce just a really phenomenal animal. I still have some pairs of the Shadow Triple Het Permafrost. That's if you want to make the blue permafrost you've seen. They are just freaking amazing animals. Lots of potential there with those. I've got some Arctic Axanthic that are 66% Het Sable. I think I may go ahead and release one of the Arctic Storm Clouds. If you're looking for that as a project, you can go ahead and hit me up on that. As far as book sales go, remember to check out Shovelnose Hogs. That's Jermaine Guy. And he's got an exclusive discount code that's the deepest discount code we've ever offered. So if you haven't picked up the books yet, feel free to jump on there and snag some of those while they're at a really good sale price right now. That sale is going to be going on through the end of the year. So check out his channel. He will have links in the description for that. Well, that's a wrap. This concludes our season of interviews. It has been an absolute blast. I've learned so much, and that was the goal and intent, in addition to allowing you as a hognose community to know a lot of the lesser known breeders, and hope to see that there are some cool people, great personalities, great perspectives, and lots of fun stuff that we can all learn together. If you are a contributor on this podcast, please know you get exclusive discounts with me. You can hit me up at any given time, and we can discuss those things for any of my progeny or stock projects that haven't hit the market, etc., etc. Anybody else that has been talked to about a particular podcast, maybe something upcoming, we're still undetermined if I'm going to do a next season with additional podcasts, or what direction we're planning on going with this. 5 questions has been awesome. It's just been a great kind of a structured feature. But lots to talk about. I think there's a ton of content that still needs to be added to these platforms, social media, etc., so we can get our eyes off of the breeding game and maybe get our eyes on how we handle, take care of stuff, look at things, look at situations, look at people, and just better ourselves as breeders and keepers and as a community. As always, and I say it with sadness in my eyes, and thank you guys so much for everything. We'll catch you on the flip side.